Chapter 57. The Dismamona directors took Ray to the medical bay on the Numinosity to continue the conversation. It provided a fitting backdrop to their proposal. Perdita was laid out in a sealed incubator, her head a mess of tubes and wires. Ray couldn't take her eyes off her. The image of that tugboat kept intruding on her thoughts. Then it came to her, and she realized why it had bugged her. Before the attack on the recusant camp, in that tent, Perdita had told her she hadn't gone into metastasis for that last session. She said she'd used the opportunity to make a run for it. But Ray clearly recalled that last session on the cruise ship. She remembered looking over the handrails at that little tugboat nestling up to the ship's hull, the way it was connected by some sort of flexible siphon, a blatant sign of pregnancy in the cluster, which meant Perdita had been in metastasis after all. Murderous liar. The agent's Perspex capsule was the only active medical equipment in the bay. Jolanta showed her where Antonio's body was too, in a freezer drawer behind her. But Ray didn't see the point in opening it. She didn't know him. She guessed she hadn't known Perdita either. A small display on the side of the incubator showed Perdita's vital signs. Everything seemed to bleep and pulse at a regular rate. Pascal said they'd stabilised her, that the machine kept Perdita's heart going and her lungs breathing, and that it would continue looking after her body's basic needs indefinitely. Through the intricate warren of medical paraphernalia, Ray guessed that at least a third of Perdita's head was, well, it just wasn't there. The front, the side. It made what remained seem so abstract, like a piece of modern art, a sculpture or something. The round lines of her skull so familiar in some places and so alien in others. The overall shape just wrong, a mistake, a grave error. Although critically ill, Perdita was still pregnant. The fetus was fine. There was a chance it may even reach full term. An incubated person within an incubated person. So what's the prognosis? Ray asked. She couldn't bring herself to say Perdita's name. Depends. Pascal brushed some imaginary dust from the top of the capsule. With the right stem cell work, maybe some AI implants, she'd likely make a full recovery. Could actually make some improvements. Right, said Ray, and what does that depend on? You, of course. She'd known they were going to say that. Silly question, really. Why else was she here? The cosy chat up in Cloud Cuckoo Land, the drinks, the clothes, the face-to-face. People like this always had an agenda. Have you ever adjusted a board of directors, Ray? Jolanta asked. Ray almost laughed. You clearly haven't seen where I work. No, well, our board will shortly undergo its annual metastasis adjustments, and we need your help. Forget it, no chance. Of course, you'd be well paid. Your fee will be considerably larger than the sum of your projected life's wages. And it'll open doors for your career, Pascal interjected. This might be the start of something big for you. Under your current circumstances, we believe you're uniquely qualified. Qualified for what, exactly? Well, metastasis has always been a conundrum for powerful people like us, he explained. It gives us that edge,
Fiscal suicide, not to employ the technology, but entering a simulation renders one insensate, defenseless, leaves a board somewhat vulnerable to manipulation, which means watertight security protocols must be in place. We believe you and your friend might bypass these measures.
And why would we do that? The Dismemona board are making a mistake, and we need them to see reason. Yolanta's tone was clipped and direct. We require their backing for a proposal, and a simple adjustment in metastasis could bring them in line with our strategy. But security is tight, Ray said, with concern for where this conversation was heading.
Yes, said Pascal. The Dismemona board ratifies all their adjustments before their sessions, and the metastasis tech ensures that only adjustments unanimously agreed upon are actioned. But your friend with the thumb, he'd have a chance of penetrating these defences, the kind of anomaly that goes unchecked. The simulation's defences are simply not looking for anything like him. A ghost in the machine.
And why should I lift a fucking finger for you? Yolanta kept a straight face. There was gravity in the way she spoke. I was hoping you'd be smart enough to take the carrot, Ray. The money, your career. But some find the stick more motivating. Pity. Pascal? Pascal tapped his eyeline, and the freezer drawer extended slowly from the wall. Antonio's body lay frozen in a cloud of cold vapour that sank to the floor. His face a mask of hopelessness, the depressing reality of his last moments preserved in his expression.
With the right medical attention, we could revive your friends here.
He nodded at Perdita's incubator.
She certainly has a fighting chance, and he's not beyond repair. But we could just as easily terminate the efforts we're making here. Grant nature permission to take her course.
No friends of mine, Ray replied. Do we like? More stick, Ray. Yolanta stepped closer. Are you sure? She took Ray's hands in her own, then turned them over to inspect her palms. The Vice President's gaze drew steadily up Ray's arms as she talked. Now, of course, I could warn you about how easily you'd end up in an incubator like that, or a drawer like this, and I suppose you might, eventually. Yolanta's inspection moved onto Ray's shoulder and spine as she paced around her. But not before we'd exhausted all our research. You're a unique specimen, Ray. There's a lot we don't understand about your condition. This man with the cloven thumb. Our investigations would take years. Fascinating stuff, no doubt. Yolanta put an arm around her and gave her a friendly squeeze. But what am I thinking? You'll be too busy working for us in the field. You won't have time to help us with our research, will you? A tight smile found its way onto Ray's face. It was probably the most disingenuous expression her face had ever assembled. Should have brought those scissors, she thought to herself.
I told you so,
another part of her replied.